Yes, good morning, San Diego. Good to have you on another episode of Operation American Dream, which we bring to you Fridays at 10:30 a.m. right here on Channel 4, or if you're finding us online at craigsewing.com or operationamericandream.tv. Thank you for joining me here all week long. We do our TV show, The American Dream, my radio show, the Craig Sewing radio show. And the reason I'm able to do these shows is because of something called freedom and freedom of speech. I believe that freedom is not free, and we have our military to thank for it. So on this show today, we're going to honor our military. We're going to share their stories, and we're going to give you some great advice. Let's go ahead, get this show started. Operation American Dream comes at you right now. All right, now let's bring in our first guest. Joining us in studio, he served in the Marines. Now he's giving back to the community. We have Phil Kendro. Let me get this right. Business Development Lead with
InnovaSystems International.
All right, man. Thank you for your service.
No, I appreciate being here. Thanks so much for having me here.
Let's start there. So you've protected our freedoms. You've done so much for us. We really are appreciative of that. Me as a civilian, very, very appreciative. Tell us a little bit about your service.
So I spent 20 years in the Marine Corps, retired last year. Aviation background, flew Harriers, was a flight instructor for T-34 trainers, was a flight instructor as well for a business jet, says a citation, get to fly the VIPs around. But half the time was in the air and half the time was on the ground, running around with groups, forward air controllers, teaching people how to shoot weapons, drop bombs, liaisons with foreign nations, which was a lot of fun.
Wow.
Then was fortunate and really blessed to come here to San Diego back in 2008. Worked Miramar operations and then worked the 3rd Marine Aircraft Wing operations, and then a lot of community relations. You know, one thing with the Marine Corps here at Miramar is that we really have been tight with the city and learned about how to identify with the community as well.
Wow. Do you miss flying? Do you still fly?
I still fly. I'm actually, after this, I'm going flying, taking up a friend for some aerobatics, so it's all good.
All right, man. How do I get in on this?
Well, that's a couple businesses. So you talked about InnovaSystems International, which is my great 9-to-5 job, great life-work balance. You know, allow me to do some stuff on the side. 35% of our company is veterans, so we are huge into hiring veterans. Headquarters here in San Diego, California. And then the stuff I do on the side for a little more fun, to get outside the cubicle, is San Diego Sky Tours. And so we do scenic flying. We're the only FAA approved formation flying. But if you want to have something a little more thrilling, I'll throw you in the front seat and we'll do some aerobatics with a parachute on you. Or if you get a buddy, we'll do some dogfights in open air biplanes over here in San Diego. And just what an awesome place to see from the ground or from the air.
Oh, it sounds pretty cool, man. I don't know if I have the stomach for it, man, to be honest with you. You guys are tough. But I don't know, maybe. But let's talk about what you're doing with Innova. So, all right, you've mentioned to me before that this is a for-profit and not for-profit, so you do a lot of charitable stuff. It's all about giving back to the community. Tell us about some of the cool things you're doing.
So again, we have to make money in some ways or another. So I've got a couple businesses that work for the profit, Innova, San Diego Sky Tours. And then there's so many awesome nonprofits here in San Diego. I guess the last count I had was about 12,852, which is amazing that we have there in San Diego. And so some of the different groups I work with is the Mount Soledad Memorial Association. I'm on the board of trustees with them recently. And we just had a great Memorial Day event out there about a week and a half ago. Almost over 1,100 people came out.
Wow.
And a record crowd that we had up there at the memorial site up there. As well, there's a couple groups called the Center for Wealth and Legacy, which works with Corporate Alliance here. It's ethical business connections. We get global leaders to come and talk to us about their experiences and let us know about how did they get to be where they are now, including people like somebody like Brian Smith, who founded UGG Boots.
Yeah, we had him on the American Dream about a month ago,
And he's amazing. We had Chris Van Gorder, the CEO of Scripps, recently. All these people come in and they share stories, and then you have one-on-one conversations with these people, global leaders. I mean, who would not want to take advantage of that? It's amazing. Another group called Life Lounge that I'm a part of in San Diego again. It's another one of those groups. It's a cross-generational mentorship. And since I've gotten out of the Marine Corps, we do mentorship and leadership there. But since I've been out of the Marine Corps, I can say the amount of business leaders and elected officials here that have allowed me to reach out to them to give awesome mentorship. It's been great.
Wow. So anything on the horizon, any events coming up, anything you guys are doing out there?
Well, I'll tell you honestly, for coming up this year, we also work with the USS Midway and again with the Mount Soledad. So there's always the Veteran Day events, the 4th of July events that are come out there. There's almost too many events always to participate in San Diego. Which
we're a military town, man.
I know.
Yeah.
And my wife and I always debate, and I finally had a mentor about 2 weeks ago, and he said sometimes you got to know when to say no because there's always going to be too much coming up. But there's such a myriad of them I couldn't even describe right now. But all those different groups that I mentioned, they have their websites, and they will talk about the different events.
Cool. How can we help you? What can we do to help?
So the biggest thing, getting the word out. I would love to take you up flying, or anybody wants to go
I don't know
flying.
why I volunteered that on the show because now I'm going to get forced to do this, and I swear, I don't know if you want to take me up there. You might.
Well, we carry bags with us. It's all good on that one.
You're going to need more in a bag, or hopefully a big bag.
But we do mild to wild is what I tell people. So if you want to go up there and you just want to be looking around and see the beautiful scenery around San Diego, we do that flight. Down the bay, looking at Hotel Del from the air, past Point Loma. It's beautiful. We are so lucky. I mean, I can say it's America's finest city from the air.
Very cool.
So we have that. As well as some of the organizations, be it the Center for Wealth and Legacy, Corporate Alliance, Life Lounge. These are groups with people that you want to know because they are connected and they give you such great information and they want to make San Diego a better place. And who wouldn't want to be a part of that group?
Love it, man. Phil, thanks for coming on the show. I know we can visit you online, innovasi.com, INNOVASI.com. I'm sure they have it on the screen for us. Thanks for coming in. Great message, and we'll have you on again soon. Fair enough?
Thanks so much for your time.
We'll talk about flying. Yeah, we'll see. I appreciate that. All right, coming up next, we got another amazing guest. In fact, we're star-studded today. We got 3 more powerful guests that are all empowering the military message coming up here on Operation American Dream. Stick around. Did you know that 82% of those surveyed transitioning out of the military, 82% feel stressed? That is very unfortunate. Those who protect our freedoms shouldn't be going through that. But the good news is we do have some solutions. Joining us in studio, Captain Sean Mahoney, served in the Coast Guard, now is serving with 0800.org. Good to have you on the show.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it.
So I got that site right here, or that stat right here off your site. It's a troubling number.
That came from some studies that were done with University of San Diego's Castor Center. They're looking at the outcomes of our program. But I want to start by giving you a T-shirt, Craig.
Oh, so we're starting with the gifts?
I got to give you a gift, and it's a 0800 T-shirt, and it gives me a chance to kind of explain our name.
Yeah, please do.
We help people transition out of the service, and really it's a new day, a new community initiative. And on the bases, you may know, in San Diego, if you're on the base at 8 o'clock, it's morning colors, and you pause and salute the flag if you're in the service.
Okay.
And this is our chance to look at that new day when people, the day after they leave the service, and pause and take care of the service.
Beautiful name. I get it. Yeah, very cool. So we're trying to get that number down, 82%.
Yeah.
You know, as a civilian, I've always been challenged just from an outside perspective looking at it. It always seems to me, from the stories I hear, that there is a gap. There's a gap between service and what you do next, whether it's finding a job. Certainly, we know the case of the PTSD. In many cases, financially, buying a house. Many of those who've served don't even understand the benefit of VA and VA loans.
Right.
So I hate that gap. I want to help close that gap, and I know this is what you're actively doing. So tell us about some of the things that you're doing to help our service members.
So that civilian-military divide is really important to us. Make sure that we close that. There are many, many opportunities available to people. You mentioned the VA loans. There are other VA benefits. There are many resources in the community. Locally, also nonprofits that you have on your show all the time here that can help service members when they get out, but a lot of times they're not aware of them when they're on the base. So we have a direct tie-in to the bases at the transition classes. Many people aren't aware that before service members leave the military, they get a class on base on kind of how to become a civilian.
Yeah.
It's a 1-week program, and we're offered in that program on many of the bases in San Diego. And if people opt in, we call them periodically from that class until a year after they separate.
What are some of the resources that you guys have?
Many of the resources have been on this program. We have, if they have financial issues, we'll connect them to STEP, Financial Literacy Center.
So they've been on the show, the STEP program, which gives, I call it the hand up, not the hand out.
Right. I mean,
so
we
if you
just
have challenges.
If people opt in our program, we call them VIPs, for veterans in process, and just to treat them with respect. We have navigators that contact them about every 2 or 3 weeks and connect them to things. We just had a VIP that was transitioning service member that he had a notice to quit. He was having trouble keeping up with his payments on his rent. Notice to quit, and we connected him to both STEP and the Financial Literacy Center, and helped him overcome that challenge and get him on his way to a successful transition.
I'm going to see if I can frame this question the right way. You just shared an example of a success story of someone that you've been able to help. Do you guys feel overwhelmed? Do you feel like you maintain the level of issues? Do you handle them well? I mean, do you have the bandwidth to help? Is there way more than we could even realize that need this type of assistance? I'm just trying to get a pulse of it from a civilian standpoint on how much we need to help our vets.
It's a big workload. There's 20,000.
That was my question.
Yeah.
It was a tough one to frame, but yeah.
20,000 service members get out of the military every year in San Diego County, and about a third of them stay here. And a third of those, they're all eligible for our program if they're staying here.
Okay.
A third of them opt into our program. So that's still a big number.
Yeah.
We currently have had 850 clients opt in since January of last year.
Wow.
And we're working with them every day, but we find that their challenges seem daunting to them in many cases, but if you bring the whole community's resources to bear, like that one story I mentioned, it can change their whole future. So
give us another good story. Help us understand what you guys are doing just through the narrative of someone that you've helped.
Sure. Another great example is a young service member was getting out, and he was bound and determined to get a job in an area where he had no training. And good for him, he applied for a technical job, but he didn't have the training, and they said, hey, we're not taking apprentices right now. And speaking to his navigator in the next scheduled call that they had, that story came up, and the navigator put him in touch with a California program through the EDD, which is an employment program that pays half his salary if he's in a training job. Wow. So he went back to that very same employer with that knowledge, and they said with that information they were going to take a chance and hire him on as an apprentice.
Awesome. How can we help you?
For us, hey, we appreciate you having us on the show and wearing the T-shirt at the gym.
Hey,
spreading the good word.
You got it. I'd put it on here if this suit wasn't so tailored for me here. Maybe we'll put it on after the show. Good gym work. Got it. Love it.
Yeah,
0800. That's a great name too. I
that.
love the message built into that.
Yeah. Thank you very much, and thanks for having me here.
Well, you're welcome to come on our show. We're here every Friday at 10:30 a.m. and messages like this really help our military. Who, if it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't have this show. You know, that's the simplest way to put it. But 0800.org. The number 8 is a number. 0800.org. Connect with these guys, see how you can support. There's a lot of interesting information on here. Your events are on here, your resources. If you've served in our military, it's a staggering number that you shared earlier. By all means, visit, get some guidance. We'd love to help you. Sean, appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, Craig. I appreciate it.
More of the Operation American Dream coming on here in just a moment. Stick around.
Hi, I'm Steve Madsen. My wife Debbie and I are the owners of this fabulous home in beautiful Coronado. We decided to put solar in the home because we wanted to have a smaller carbon footprint and we wanted to save some money. I'm a retired contractor and I've worked with Baker Electric in the past, so when I found out they had a solar division, I was ecstatic. They're a good company, got integrity, a good work ethic. I would definitely recommend Baker. My wife and I are extremely happy with what they've done for us.
All right, I told you we had an all-star lineup of guests, those who have served in the military, joining us in Operation American Dream today, and we're only halfway there. Now we have served in the Navy. Alan Lerchbacker, who is the owner, president of Naval Coating, and I don't even know how to dive into this. Let's just invite him onto the show and have him tell some stories. Alan, good to have you on the show, man.
Craig, thank you very much.
Thank you for your service.
It was a pleasure.
Well,
Yeah, I
man,
enjoyed
so let me allow you to keep your modesty at bay for a moment. You recovered the Space Shuttle Challenger from the waters of the Atlantic. You have operated in over 40 countries. COO of CalStart, where you built the largest business incubator, 700,000 square feet at 3 different locations. I mean, this is one heck of a story.
It was fun.
Tell us some stories, man.
Well, on the for the Space Shuttle, I was just a great opportunity for my dive team and I. So it was a national tragedy, but that's kind of what the position in the Navy that I had. I would fly over to different things, US Air Florida, 007, and then when the shuttle exploded, I was asked to go down and run that operation. So
what does that mean to go down and run the operation in divers? I mean, are we talking submarine? Are we talking just divers? I mean,
All
help
the
me
above.
understand. Yeah.
I ended up with 3,000 people, 33 ships.
3,000 people.
Yeah. So you have to remember, NASA was kind of, at least for that space center, a little bit underemployed.
Yeah.
And so we had a lot of people that wanted to help what we were doing and with the recovery, and so the team grew pretty rapidly. And so we had to find everything on the bottom, so you had to have a search component. I had 7 different ships that were going back and forth driving side-scan sonar over 450 square miles of the ocean 24/7 for almost 5 months. And then once you find things, then you have to get on the bottom. So the divers, if it was shallow enough, we would use the diver, especially on the cabin. We found the cabin in somewhere between 90 and 120 feet of water, so very scuba capable. We used the Navy's ships, 3 ships of the Navy's to do that dive. And then the deeper stuff, we'd use ROVs, remote operating vehicles.
Wow. So tell us about, you were the CEO of Austell Ships. You grew this company from 66 people to over 1,000 people.
Right.
Tell us about your
Well, we're
your
5,000 people right
chapter
now.
there.
So when I got out of the Navy, I wanted to be a CEO. So really what I wanted to do is, I love the ownership that the Navy gave me as when I was part of, in command. And so I wanted to replicate that, and people told me, okay, that's being CEO. So I, Chief Operating Officer, President, and then I got asked to be CEO. And when I say that, people go, you have to kind of say what that means, because it's not a billion-dollar company. We had, I tell people we had a trailer, 47 acres, 66 people, and that's it. And we grew that to 1,200 people and about 200 million in revenue, and now we're over $1 billion in revenue at that company.
I love it. About 200 million, and just casually. So you've obviously done some amazing things, and you've continued your leadership as a CEO, and now you're with Naval Coating, President CEO there as well. Tell us about your company.
We blast and paint Navy ships, so we work with all the primes, NASSCO, BAE, CMSD, Continental Marine, and so we use their facilities, but it's our equipment, and we're their sub for blasting and painting. We just,
you guys, I'm sorry to interrupt
Yep.
you. When you guys come on the show, those who have served, you guys have such amazing stories. We have authors and charity leaders and guys like yourself on here, and you guys just have great stories that we love sharing, and many of them empower the military community. But it's fun when I get to share one, right?
Oh, please.
As a civilian. So a couple of years ago, I was lucky enough and honored to MC the military ball in Coronado. So before the actual event, they asked me if I wanted to go do some things with the military and kind of immerse. And so when I go and speak, I could have some stories. And one of the things I got to do is I got to go on the USS Macon Island, just do a tour of that ship. And I swear to you, one of the first things I noticed when I went on the ship was how beautifully it was painted. And as we're walking down the flight deck, I guess you'd call it,
Yep.
there were all these sailors that were on the ground, and they were painting the nuts and bolts of the ship. So this massive ship that just got back has thousands of people on it, and they're so detail-oriented that they're painting on the ground the bolts on the ground that were that big on this massive ship.
Yep.
So the details, but you do the big stuff, right?
We do.
Yeah.
We do. So we do the Cape St. George right now is in dry dock, and we just completed painting the entire hull superstructure, and now we're up on the masts. And
How many people are on that job?
We started with, when I bought the company, we had 44 people. We're at 149 right now, and all those people are involved in some way with that particular job, and 2 other jobs, the Higgins and the Rushmore. Are
Well,
the 3
those
that we're
ships are they're just something else.
Beautiful.
I mean, many who are watching the show have probably been on the USS Midway or seen it. I mean, that's a story in itself. When I went on the USS Macon Island, this is not a museum. This is something that had just been overseas. And the way these things are put together, the details of just the technology and in the way that it looks, which you're obviously making it a beautiful ship, it's mind-blowing. We did some cool stuff. We went on helicopter simulators, and I met many vets and heard stories, but being on that ship was probably the coolest thing, knowing how much goes into that, and you're part of that. Well, we appreciate your service. Is there anything we can do to help you, help the community?
Just, we're in the middle of recruiting veterans, and so what we want to do, our goal is to have 30% of our company be veterans, And so I'm working with the guys at Camp Pendleton, Sean Mahoney, who just left. I'm going to work with him for the Coast Guard, and we're just meeting with the Navy people to really get involved and help the vets. Because if they're looking, we'd like to help employ them.
That's awesome. You know, and with Captain Sean Mahoney, we were just talking about the gap that I've seen as a civilian that exists between those who serve and protect our freedoms to getting out into the marketplace, getting jobs. And I'm troubled by the gap and the fact that you're on the receiving end, helping people to find these jobs that have protected us, that have served us, and actually get them back into the marketplace and earning incomes. It's an amazing thing. Navalcoding.us. We appreciate you coming on here, and thank you again for your service and sharing your stories with us.
Thank you very much.
All right,
appreciate it.
Coming up next, another amazing guest on Operation American Dream. We're going to finish strong here. Stick around, back in a moment.
My name is Mike Peters and my wife Cindy. We've been residents of Escondido for over 40 years, and we've been really happy with Baker Solar. Being a banker, I'm a numbers guy, and I looked at the numbers very seriously before I chose solar. Right now, my savings is about $3,000 a year. As the 20-year lease goes on, I'll be saving more, so I'm extremely happy with the system.
Lots of people watched the installation and a lot of questions, and I just have to tell them it's all worked out great. We're saving lots of money. It's paying off big time.
All right, now joining us in studio right here on Operation American Dream, I have got to know this guy pretty well. He is politically motivated. He's in the real estate game. Andre Hobbs, who's the president of the Veterans Association of Real Estate Professionals, the SD chapter. He's helping people buy and sell real estate. Andre, good to have you on the show.
Nice to have you.
And we have a special guest as well, who's makes us all look better. We have Zion. Good to have you on the show as well. Your first time on TV? All right, well, what are we going to talk about today? Let's talk about politics, right?
Exactly.
No,
Well,
but you
why
are
not?
doing a lot in politics to
We do a lot.
to help those in the military. I know you go to Washington a lot. You're running the SD chapter. Tell us about what you have going on.
He went to Washington one day.
Oh, just one day?
That
Yeah.
was his first time.
He left yet? Did you throw a party when he was gone?
No.
Yes, we actually recently had our 2016 policy conference in D.C., Washington, D.C. And while we're in D.C., this is actually our third year going. We speak with the politicians of all the different states and representation that we have locally. Now, I'm the president of the San Diego chapter of VA Rep. However, we have 8 other chapters here throughout California, and we have 27 chapters across the nation. So
She's got
all
good
27,
energy, man.
I know. Now you know why I stay positive.
Well, that's why we had to bring her in here. We couldn't leave her in the green room.
No, we
Are you
can't.
kidding me?
No. But we have 27 chapters across the nation, so all 27 of us verge on Capitol Hill and discuss with our representative a few of the topics that I gave you earlier. To give you an insight, this year we went to talk about 3 topics in particular. One was HUD has a program for FHA.
Right.
Okay. However, we've been trying to get HUD to add a provision to the
Housing and
system.
Urban Development for our audience.
I'm
yeah.
sorry.
No, just make sure.
Yeah, and so we've been trying to get HUD to make a provision to add our veterans into that program because it's only applied to FHA and low and moderate income housing. However, they won't do it. So we now have a Congressman, Mark Takano up in Riverside, who has written a bill to mirror the image for our veterans. So now we will have hopefully a HUD program for our veterans, to the VA guys.
Now, how do you think this will help the military community?
Oh, it's going to help them greatly because here in California, I mean, the average income is what it is for our guys. And so,
Yeah.
yes, the average housing cost is around $425, $450 for
Going
something
up.
decent
Yeah.
and going up. Even though the interest rates are still low,
Yep.
the housing levels are still going up, and if they're not making the income, they're not going to survive. So we have to find ways of bringing awareness back to our veterans and saying, hey, you got a GI Bill, and you have your VA loan. There's 22 million veterans across the nation. 16 million own homes. However, only 1.9 ever use a VA loan.
So I don't know how this has become the topic today, but I've mentioned multiple times on this show today that those who've served in the military, and by the way, I should have started this. Thank you for your service.
No
You
worries.
served in our military as well,
Thank you.
and you continue to. But you've served in the military, and it just seems like there's a gap between service and what happens when you get out. And what do you do, and what are the opportunities? And there's just so many. Of course, there's challenges, but there's also just that gap, and I want to help close it. And you mentioned homeownership. If you served in our military, I know so many of you that just don't even realize the opportunities exist to buy a home. You get the BAH, which is the government paying for part of your housing, which is tax-free money.
Exactly.
If you buy the house, you get to write off the interest, so you get the tax deduction of the interest. So tax-free here, tax deductible here, but you can buy a house with no money down. The credit standards are a little bit more lax, and we can get you into a home and building equity, building wealth, of course, building memories as well, having a home. And so many just do not do it, and I can't figure out why.
It's 500. You can, as a VA, as a veteran, you can buy a home here in San Diego up to $580,000 and no money down, no PMI. That's the beautiful part.
Yep.
If you have a 10% or more disability, then that administrative funding fee is waived behind the scenes. So therefore, that administrative funding fee, if you don't have a disability, is added to the back end of the loan. So why would you not use your VA loan?
There's no risk because it's not you don't have to put any money down.
Exactly. It's
and here's one of the more fascinating things about that. So everybody remembers the real estate crash and subprime loans and loans going into default. This technically, if you put it out to the regular marketplace, civilians like FHA and conventional, you would think it was a riskier loan. No money down. We remember those days. The VA loan has the lowest default rates of any loans, of course, because the responsibility, the loyalty, and paying back your debt. It's interesting because it's not even a risky loan for the marketplace when we do this. You guys seem to pay your bills pretty well.
Hey, man, we got no choice because, again, our bills and our finances and our livelihood is tied into, some of us have clearances, whether it's secret, top secret, or whatever. And if you default on anything, if there's a red flag, then you can lose that clearance.
And they can check your credit.
Easily.
I think that's fascinating, that your credit could actually be a challenge for you, which we help people on the credit front as well. Well, Andre Hobbs, it's good to finally get you on the show. I mean, you and I have talked so many times outside of the show. Finally, the other day, I'm eating lunch. He comes up. I'm by myself. I got ditched, I think. And comes up, grabs me, and is telling me all the things he has going on in Washington and all the veterans that he's helping. And I was like, man, we got to get you on the show. And you know what? You and I aren't that good at looking guys, so we had to bring on Zion.
I had to bring in an exception, an accent piece that will help me look.
She's got the face. We have a radio show on KCBQ, but she's got the face for TV. Zion, this is your first time on TV? Want to say anything to the crowd or anyone? There's only about 1 million people watching. You don't want to say hello?
Let's say hi.
There you go. Are you guys doing anything fun this weekend?
You know what? The beautiful thing is my daddy day. She just graduated kindergarten, and it's Father's Day weekend. So nothing is planned yet. I got to get around my real estate side because I'm showing property either today or tomorrow morning, and then after that, I'm not sure exactly what we're going to be doing.
We don't need plans. Let's just go have fun. The weather's going to be nice, right? Let's go play in the sun.
Yeah, man. But she's definitely is my motivation for why I do what I do.
Man, I totally get it. All right, well, we're going to finish up the show now. Zion, do you want to help me say goodbye to everybody?
Bye-bye.
All right, well, that is all for Operation American Dream. Thank you so much for coming on the show, man. I love this show. Every Friday, we finish up the week. We honor our military. I believe that we live in the greatest city in the greatest country on the planet. It's because of your service that helps us to have these freedoms. So we thank you for your service. If you're like me and you're a civilian, you just like to support the military, or you want to follow the show, please do OperationAmericanDream.tv. That's how you can follow the show on social media. We're growing one show at a time, one viewer at a time. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. And of course, we'll see you next Friday, 10:30 a.m., Channel 4.